I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. They're using new media to fix the busted halo.
I have now officially ruined the podcast. I will be exiting now.
No, you've rounded it out nicely, I think.
Later, we meet one of the men who's really doing the repairs.
But everybody from the New York Times down to the local Diocesan newspaper is struggling with the same thing. How do we keep readers? How do we keep eyeballs?
And experiencing the joy of gospel music.
There's just like a bond, and when we sing, there's a spiritual upliftment for not only the members, but for those that we're performing for.
Good evening. Podcasting is a fairly recent invention, but in the short time that it's been around, it has really exploded. It seems like just about everybody has a podcast. TV stations, radio stations, and bloggers. Well, you can even go to our website and download entire episodes of this show, Currents.
You actually can do that. But just a few years before this show, Currents, debuted, the Paulists sponsored a website called, and a podcast, also called Busted Halo. And not long ago, I headed into their studio in Midtown Manhattan for a first-hand look.
Okay, we have a question this week.
Yeah, angels and demons.
Oh, right. Okay. Good to go?
Oh, hey, guys.
Hey, Matt. Hey. How's it going?
Oh, yeah, I'm kind of slumming it today, because I don't have to worry about the cameras. The microphones don't really pick up the T-shirt here, so I thought I'd... All right, let's do this.
Welcome to the Busted Halo Cast. I'm Mike Hayes.
I am Father Dave Dwyer of the Paulist Fathers.
And I am Brittany Janice.
And on today's Busted Halo Cast,
we've got questions, as always, questions of faith, and today it's about angels and demons.
Uh-oh.
In fact, just a couple days ago at Mass, I was preaching, it's that one where they all go into the pigs, and the pigs jump off the cliff. And they're like, send us into the pigs.
Sound like Danny DeVito as the penguin.
I think that means our angel and demons discussion is complete.
I have now officially ruined the podcast. I will be exiting now.
No, you've rounded it out nicely, I think.
Yeah. So Matt, what brings you by?
This is all part of a technology series that we're doing on Currents. And what I wanted to do was kind of see what types of technology are being used, in this case a podcast, to reach people and to spread the Catholic message. So my question for you guys would probably be, where did this all start?
Where did that start?
Funny you should ask. It turned out Father Dave and I both have a radio background. Father Dave was a crazy rock and roll DJ. And
Happy Dave in the morning.
That's so awesome.
and I did some sports stuff and some news stuff and produced talk shows and things like that. And someone came up to us and said, you guys should do podcasting. And this was what, 5 years ago now?
Yeah, I'm good with math.
So we ended up just putting it together, and we said, well, okay, now we know how to do this. What do we want to podcast? And from our own pastoral experience, we found that most people just want an answer to a question.
And so we figured, well, that's what people need. That's what people want. Let's do that via podcasting.
You guys have had, obviously, a lot of questions. I think, today was number 205?
Mm-hmm. Podcast 205.
Podcast number 205. Would you step forward, please? No, you're the next contestant on. No, but what, I guess, are some of the more interesting questions that you guys have answered?
Where did demons come from? Well, what did Thomas Aquinas have to say?
I think my favorite one was the other day. We had someone ask, does the near occasion of sin, is the near, putting yourself in the near occasion of sin a sin itself?
Mike and I being like, so here are some near occasions of sin you could find yourself in. It's always fun.
So don't.
Right.
I missed that one because of a near occasion of sin.
I don't think so.
No, I injured myself or
that
something.
That was your knee.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of other things does Busted Halo do? What kind of other things do you do? I know you, Father, do a Sirius show?
Sirius XM satellite radio. We're on 5 nights a week. And Mike was around at the foundation of BustedHalo.com, which is our web magazine.
Basically, it's a web magazine that Bill McGarvey, our editor-in-chief, runs upstairs. And he does basically, faith, everyday life, not so far apart. And we do one different article every day. It's basically, we say, how many balls can we keep juggling in the air and keep doing different kinds of forms of media while we're doing it? Because that's where people are.
Your name, at least in our office at NET has become so synonymous with the Googling God thing that I actually had written down on my notes, Mike, the God Googler Hayes.
Your boss, Deacon Greg, had a picture of him and me on his blog. It said the Deacon and the God Googler.
That's great.
That was funny.
So, well, apparently I wasn't the first to coin the phrase. I thought I had come up with something, a little witty, but apparently...
No.
Net TV.
Right.
It's new evangelization television.
That is it.
Not your grandmother's Catholic TV. Well, Matt, we hope you had a good time here on the podcast.
I had a great time. Thanks for having me, guys.
Matt McClure, it's netnewyork.net.
That's it.
Oftentimes, I don't get to see the behind the scenes at the Busted Halo cast, so this will be cool.
Yeah.
Get to see what we all look like.
Well, maybe don't check it out.
If you're watching us on net, give us a call, 917-591-8476. We'll answer your questions of faith as well, here on the Busted Halo cast.
Well, the Busted Halo podcast there, and a very dressed
You
down
had so
me.
much fun.
I did. It was really a lot of fun, and I don't get to wear a T-shirt to work that often, so it just worked out on all occasions there. But I also sat down for an interview that same day with the editor-in-chief of Busted Halo. He had some interesting insights as well on Catholic media and how the church is reaching out to young people, so we'll have that coming up a little bit later on. Stay with us. Much more current straight ahead.
And a new way of celebrating for a Queens parish.
I want people to really just be excited and to, really enjoy the music, feel the music, and be able to express themselves through us, through our song.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Coming up later, how gospel music has taken hold of parishioners at One Queens Church. But first, let's turn now to today's headlines. Listen to the poor. That is the message to G8 countries from Pope Benedict XVI. Leaders from the group of 8 industrialized nations will meet in L'Aquila, Italy, beginning Wednesday. Pope Benedict says these heads of state need to, quote, listen to the voice of Africa and the countries least developed economically. Meantime, Pope Benedict also speaking out following the bombing of a cathedral in a Filipino town during Sunday Mass. At least 5 people were killed, 34 others wounded. The Pope says, quote, I raise my voice once again to condemn the use of violence, which is never a decent way to solve problems. A military official says Muslim extremists were responsible for the bombing.
At the Vatican, a popular place for the Pope to celebrate Mass has a new shine, as we hear from Rome Reports.
The Pauline Chapel is the last chapel that Michelangelo painted. These frescoes are nearly 500 years old. With good reason, the Vatican has just restored them.
It was probably the most important restoration and the biggest restoration and the most complex restoration that the Holy See ever undertook.
It took Michelangelo about 8 years to paint them, and it's taken Vatican artists 5 years to restore them. The total cost of the project was $4.6 million. Michelangelo's last 2 frescoes, the Conversion of St. Paul and the Crucifixion of St. Peter, have recovered their former glory. Painting these frescoes was a challenge for Michelangelo, who had just finished The Last Judgment in the Sistine Chapel, and at the same time was working in the construction of St. Peter's Basilica and the design of the dome.
I was on the scaffolding at the same point as Michelangelo, when at the age of 67 he began this project. And he painted it with such sluggishness, not only because he no longer wanted to paint, but also because he regretted that the roof had collapsed and the rain had ruined his job, and because he hadn't signed his contract and wasn't paid on time.
During the restoration, the experts discovered this amazing self-portrait of Michelangelo in one of the frescoes. The artist depicted his tiredness and old age in the face of St. Paul. They were also able to identify the last strokes of the artist.
We've discovered what was the last working day of Michelangelo, and we've also discovered which were his last strokes, which are depicted in this group of women who cry at the foot of St. Peter's cross.
It's a great treasure that Benedict XVI will officially inaugurate before he leaves on vacation.
Pope Benedict typically celebrates early morning Mass for special guests in the chapel. It's also reserved for Eucharistic adoration for people who work in the Apostolic Palace. For those who may not know, the Apostolic Palace is the official residence of the Pope in Vatican City. And from Papal Palace to reality TV, a new game show from Turkey may get some converts. Literally. Atheists will hear from a Greek Orthodox priest, a Jewish rabbi, a Muslim imam, and a Buddhist monk. If the atheist converts to one of the faiths, he gets a trip to the homeland of their new religion. The name of the show, Penitents Compete. That's just a translation anyway. Stay tuned. There's much more currents coming up straight ahead. Welcome back to Currents. Earlier on in the show, we saw part of a podcast Matt recorded with the guys over at Busted Halo.
It was a lot of fun, but while I was there, I also wanted to get a chance to sit down and have a little interview with the website's editor-in-chief, Bill McGarvey. Bill, thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming by. Good to see you.
First of all, just wanted to start out. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in this whole Catholic media thing.
It's completely kind of happenstance, to be honest with you, Matt. I for years, I'm a musician. I've moved to New York, and I'm a songwriter, made secular music, and still do. For a long time, toured, et cetera, et cetera. And I happened to have a college degree in English, an English major, and along the way, rather than sort of bartender or wait tables, I was fortunate enough to get jobs doing editorial sort of temp work here and there. And then a friend of mine from America Magazine and Commonwealth Magazine, both Catholic magazines who were friends, called me and told me about this thing Busted Halo that was looking for an editor-in-chief. And so I applied, not really knowing anything about it, but that sort of just kind of fell into it. So I wasn't looking, I'd never worked for a church organization or for Catholic media at all, so I've been making it up as I kind of go along. You know?
Well, that's always good. Now, that's kind of how I operate all the time.
Exactly, right.
So what does media in the Catholic Church look like today?
I mean, it's changing. The face of Catholic media, like media everywhere, is changing. I mean, we often talk about here at Busted Halo that, you know, coming from a print magazine background, but we're doing video on our site. We're doing a lot of interactive things. I don't really think of us as doing magazines as much as we're doing media now, and that means everything from longer form video to short form video to audio to text to more interactive features. So I think that's where media in general is moving. We talk about Web 2.0. The fact of the matter is, nobody's on the cutting edge, as far as I can tell. Nobody knows where the edge is anymore. It just keeps expanding out like a large sort of puddle or some water form. You can substitute whatever you want there. So I think it's always been, it's tough to sort of to put your finger on it. I think the Catholic Church, unfortunately, a lot of Catholic organizations are a little frightened of a lot of new media because it's a lot less controllable. It's not, we print it, you get it. It's, we print it, you comment, and that interactivity can be frightening if you have a message you want to get out there that sometimes might be at odds with the institutional message. So it is a learning curve that I think is happening, and we do a lot of Busted Halo to try to talk to a lot of people throughout the church who do media about what the new media landscape is. So it's, I think, slowly, it's moving into the 21st century. It has to, but everybody from the New York Times down to the local diocesan newspaper is struggling with the same thing. How do we keep readers? How do we keep eyeballs? And it's hard. So I think it's on a learning curve like everybody is. Maybe a little behind the curves a lot of times, except for, of course, the net, which is way, so far advanced. We only hope someday to be where you all are.
Well, you talked a little bit about people maybe being a little nervous about using this technology and some controversy surrounding that. What about controversy with the types of stories that Catholic media covers? Have there been controversies regarding that?
Sure. I mean, and truth be told, BustedHalo.com, the website that I run, it's started by the Paulist Fathers and owned by the Paulist Fathers, and the mission has always been to talk to spiritual seekers. The Paulists have had a charism. They were founded by Father Isaac Hecker, who was a convert. The fact the charism has always been about talking to people outside the church. So, truth be told, we obviously are owned by a Catholic organization, and if you look at our website, there's tons of Catholic content. But our general sort of mission is to talk to spiritual seekers, which is this enormous generation of people that are spiritual but not religious. So that means we have to talk about reality. So, if there are hot button issues in terms of course, sex and sexuality are always hot button issues. So if you talk, we recently had a good friend, Sister Bernadette Reese, who's a daughter of St. Paul, a traditional sister in her habit, talking to her openly gay cousin, who she's known since they were children, about the church and about faith and about his sexuality and her sexuality, and it wasn't like coming up with any great doctrinal mess. It was just talking about relationally, and that gets a ton of attention because these are issues that people are trying to deal with and talk about within the church and outside the church. So you can sometimes some people's feathers can be ruffled, but the fact of the matter is we're trying to talk to the world, and if you're not on the web talking about the issues that are relevant to then you're not talking to people. And I always liken it to like, St. Paul didn't go 12 miles west of Thessalonica and say, "Come to me, talk to me." He went to Thessalonica and talked. You got to be where people are. If you're not there.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think that the church, that the Catholic Church in particular, is doing enough in regards to using media today?
It's still changing, and I hate to. I think it's of course the Catholic Church is an enormous, billion strong, and it's got lots of sort of affiliates around the world, lots of dioceses. So it depends on where you're talking about. Obviously, places like Brooklyn, they're really trying to embrace technology. Other places a little more reticent, and it's getting. But I think those people are changing because they realize this is just where everybody has to go, and that while the downside might be certain levels of control might not be there that they were with print media, that they're still to not be there is a bigger wrong than to take that risk.
Right, Bill. Well, thanks for having me over. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
Bill McGarvey there, the editor-in-chief of Busted Halo. And I had so much fun that day just getting to know these guys.
It. Absolutely.
Well, and that's what they do, They do the job, but they have fun at the same time.
And what I kind of like about it is it's obviously a new way of reaching a new audience. And like he was just saying, they're not just talking about issues that are off. I mean, they're talking about controversial issues or issues that, and they're bringing it in a way that's new technology, not just the old school way of doing things.
Right, and they don't limit themselves to, we're trying to reach just a Catholic audience,
right,
or just a Protestant audience, or just a Muslim audience, or whomever. They're, really sort of reaching out to everyone. Spiritual seekers is what he said.
I like that.
Folks who are spiritual, but maybe not religious.
Right.
And, maybe answering questions. Maybe giving them new questions to be asked.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a very different way of doing it, but I think they're finding it a very fulfilling way to do it, from what I gathered.
And you kind of got back to your old radio days.
I know.
I
didn't have to dress up.
I know. You and the T-shirt. You love that T-shirt now.
I was so excited. All right. Well, I've also written some more about my visit to the Busted Halo guys and gals over on the Currents blog. Just head on over there. It's netny.net/currents. You click on the Riding the Wave section, and I'll also let you know how you can check out Busted Halo for yourself. It's all there in the blog, so head on over netny.net/currents. Stay tuned. Much more Currents just ahead.
Singing is praying twice. These people take it seriously.
The idea that we can enjoy being in church, the idea that we can enjoy praising God, that it's not a burden.
Well, welcome back to Currents. Last week we met a group of people at Sacred Heart Parish in Cambria Heights, Queens, that's helped revive that church with gospel music.
It is called The Experience, and it's got parishioners at Sacred Heart clapping their hands and making a joyful noise. And now we're going to hear from the singers themselves and what motivates them, the singers of The Experience. They're today's eyewitness.
We have fun right before we're about to praise the Lord, because it is all good. That's what we like doing. We like going out there. We like cutting a rug, all of that stuff. For the Lord, it's all good.
Reviving the Catholic Church, as we say.
Reviving the Catholic Church?
Yes.
That's one of our goals as a group. Get people up, get them motivated to celebrate Jesus.
I want everybody to be excited. I want everybody to have fun and enjoy themselves, not just sit down and just go through the motions. Like, really be into it, right?
Michael is wonderful with his music. He writes, he produces all of his music, and it just keeps us extremely busy. And the funny thing is, when you think he has one song, he can change that one song like 12 different times.
Right.
So you're constantly going.
There's just like a bond, and when we sing, there's a spiritual upliftment for not only the members, but for those that we're performing for.
I'm looking for, I want to touch people. That's really what I'm looking for more than anything else. I want people to really just be excited and to, you know, really enjoy the music, feel the music, and be able to express themselves through us, through our song.
Basically just to touch them so they can have an experience.
The feedback, because you know when you sit in church, people are not always giving you feedback on the songs you sing besides a regular clap. Whereas now within the concert, you know, we pretty much see the Spirit, you know, lifting them and they're enjoying themselves. They don't have to worry about, you know, if they're, you know, coming out of their shows too much, because, you know, as Roman Catholics, we're supposed to sit there and just, you know, clap. But this is a time where they can release how they feel. And
Stand
if they feel
up,
the Spirit,
jump,
exactly.
Catch the Holy Ghost, you know, pray.
Just enjoy themselves.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Get the message of praise and see those who are out there to receive what it is that they're projecting, a cheerful look, enjoyment. And it's about all I can give in the Lord's name.
I believe that we're here to send a message to the people, to Catholic people and people who want to listen, people who have their ears and hearts open, listening for the Word of God. The idea that we can enjoy being in church, the idea that we can enjoy praising God, that it's not a burden, that it's a joy and it's fun.
The main thing is that everyone gets that experience, that spiritual experience, because we're all here, regardless of that we're singing. We all love music, but we're also here to praise and to say thank you to God and that we're doing the right thing, and we're saying thank you for everything, because He is the beginning and the end. You know, we give Him the almighty praise, the hallelujah, everything.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. He's here all night, y'all. I got a praise song. He's here all night. He's here all night.
You gotta love it. The experience at Sacred Heart Parish in Cambria Heights. They are today's eyewitness. Full of so much energy.
I know, having fun in church, who thought, right?
I know, it's true though. I mean, really what they're looking at is being able to enjoy what they're doing, and as they said, bring it toward people, inspire people so that they can feel it, not just think it or feel it in their hearts, but feel it in their body, their guts.
Right. I mean, you know, they were talking about just so many different aspects of spirituality that can be sort of encapsulated in that, you know, just through gospel music. And that's something, as a musician myself, music is so powerful, and that can really have a profound effect on people.
Absolutely, and they don't always, I know that, you know, in the past, other parishes perhaps aren't quite as vocal, and that's why this is such an experience, and it is so different, and really pushing the limits.
Right, well, it is very different, and you know, I think that's one of the things that I really love about what we do here at Currents, is we cover it all, you know. I mean, this isn't for, the experience isn't for everybody, you know. There is, you know, something to be said for that. There's also something to be said for the very reverent, you know, high church, you know, sort of the more traditional Roman Catholic service as well.
Sort of like the healing mass interview that I did the other day. Not everybody's going to want to necessarily go to that, but for those who might, then there's that on the, you know, menu as well.
Right.
You know, so.
And we'll keep on doing it. We'll keep on covering everything that runs the gamut.
We have the buffet here at Currents, so if you're hungry, come on in and dine with us.
That's right.
Well, that's all for this edition of Currents. Coming up on tomorrow's show, he's only done it twice before, and tomorrow the Pope does it again. He releases a major document, an encyclical. We'll have a first look, all that and more on tomorrow's Currents.
And remember, you can always catch us online. Just head on over to netny.net/currents. Let me say that again, netny.net/currents. We'd also like to hear from you. You can just drop us an email drop us a line at currentsny.net. Thanks so much for watching this edition of Currents. I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Have a great night. Have so much fun.